Today, Mina Kimes, Chase Daniel, Adam Schefter with you for the full hour today. And just when you thought the free agency madness was over, Adam continues to break on Justin Fields, Adam.
Laura, it's never over, and today the New York Jets traded Justin Fields to the Kansas City Chiefs for a 2027 sixth-round draft pick. Fields gets to go to a place that he wanted to be, where Patrick Mahomes is recovering from a torn ACL, and the Chiefs needed a backup quarterback. With them having lost Gardner Minshew to the Arizona Cardinals, Fields will come in, get plenty of work during the offseason, during training camp as Mahomes gets healthy and returns to the starting lineup, and now he'll get to work with Andy Reid. The New York Jets, on the other hand, get back another draft pick in the 2027 draft that is expected to be loaded. It's a late-round draft pick, but the Jets already are armed with extra ammunition in that draft. They'll need another quarterback in the room, but at some point in time, they are expected to draft one next month. We'll see what round they decide to do that, but they'll add to that quarterback room now that they've subtracted from it today by trading Justin Fields to the Chiefs.
Some interesting names in the later rounds for quarterbacks in the draft. But let's look at the timeline for KC and Mahomes. Mahomes tore his left ACL and LCL back on December 14th. He underwent successful surgery the next day in Dallas. And the typical recovery for such an injury, about 9 months, meaning Mahomes will miss the team's offseason program. His availability for the start of next season, of course, is in question. The start is what we're focusing on. 2026 NFL season opener is slated for either September 9th or 10th. We'll find out more when we know the full schedule. And Mina, what's the impact for the Chiefs with this signing of Justin Fields?
I think it makes a ton of sense. I mean, this is a low-risk signing. Let's start there. They gave up a sixth-round pick. They're paying him, I believe, $3 million because the Jets are eating some of his salary. That's not just backup money. That's cheap backup money. And he is a qualified back, one of the more qualified, experienced backups around now, given his starting experience. If he does have to play, and let's say there's some complications with the injury, he does bring that experience. I think also you'll see some changes in the offense. But I could also see Kansas City using him in packages as the year goes on. Patrick Mahomes hasn't run a quarterback sneak since he got hurt in 2019 on one. To me, that's one very obvious way you can incorporate Justin Fields into your offense. And I know we can laugh about it and say it's not a big deal. Wait till it's 4th and 1 in a playoff game, and we can talk about whether that's a big deal. For Fields, to me, also, this is an opportunity for him to actually, and I know we're a broken record on this, pursue the Sam Darnold path. And maybe it won't pan out, but when I think about Sam Darnold, yes, we think about Minnesota, but to me, the year he spent in San Francisco before he got to the Vikings, between the Panthers and the Vikings, that is what Justin Fields can look at this as. Adam made a great point about how he'll get a lot of work this offseason with Mahomes' injury. This is an opportunity for him to not only learn under the best, and of course Andy Reid, but also rebuild his value as a quarterback. I love it for both sides.
Let's talk about what this will actually look like in the Chiefs offense. I mean, Chase, you spent 3 years with Andy Reid. How do you think this plays scheme-wise for Justin Fields and the fit?
Well, I agree with Mina. It's a low-risk, high-reward signing for me, and I love it really for the player and for the team. Obviously, Adam was saying, Shefty was saying that Mahomes is coming off an ACL. Well, you don't know how or if he's going to be ready for the first of the year. So what do? You go out there, you get a high-reward type player. And I'm a huge Justin Fields fan personally. I like the way he plays, but it's his 4th team in 4 years. All right, Bears, Steelers, Jets, and then Chiefs, obviously. And it's the first in that span, though, with an offensive-minded head coach. He's going to get a lot of reps in the offseason. He's going to get a lot of reps in training camp. But even when Mahomes is back, I agree with Mina, like 4th and 1 in the playoffs, and it's 2nd and goal or 4th and goal, whatever it is, like you could view Justin Fields and Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid's drawing up plays on his napkins. It's well talked about. And so imagine a Justin Fields, Kenneth Walker backfield on these 2nd and 3rd and 4th and goals. I would love it.
Adam, you mentioned how this impacts potentially the quarterback position in the draft this year for the Chiefs. Just elaborate a little bit more on that, where you see them maybe taking a quarterback and what their overall thought process is about this draft specifically for that position.
Well, I think the Chiefs are good in this draft. The Jets, though, I think the quarterback position is up in the air moving forward next month. I think there are a lot of people around New York. I've already been asked, are the Jets taking Ty Simpson in round 1? My guess would be no, but let's see how it plays out here over the course of the next month. They are loaded with draft picks in the 2027 NFL Draft. 3 first-round picks in a draft that is expected to be loaded with first-round caliber quarterbacks. Now, again, that doesn't preclude the Jets from looking this year. I think they will. It would not be a surprise to see the Jets use one of these mid-round picks, a relatively early pick, but not a one, on a quarterback. And we'll see how that plays out here moving forward. There also are still veterans out there that they could add to the room. Andy Dalton has worked with Frank Reich before, and the Panthers are expected to move on from him and potentially trade him. Carson Wentz has worked before with Frank Reich and could wind up working with him again here in New York. There are some options that I think the Jets still are not done adding to the quarterback room here, and then they'll go out and draft someone, I think, in the middle rounds to complement Geno Smith, a veteran, and a rookie.
Adam, by the way, thanks for being a great teammate. I said the Chiefs, I meant the Jets. Two very different organizations, as we well know, and you picked me up right where I left off. All right, let's talk about the Eagles, guys. Also making some news last night by signing tight end Dallas Goedert to a one-year, $7 million deal, which helps the Eagles avoid a dead cap hit as well, so important there. They did lose Jahan Dotson in free agency, so this secures one of the Eagles' offensive threats to be back, and he's been a good weapon for Jalen Hurts, right? Goedert was a key part of this Philadelphia passing attack last season, catching a career-best 60 passes for 591 yards, heavily featured in the red zone, shattered his previous high with 11 touchdowns, and those 11 touchdown catches tied with first-team All-Pro Trey McBride for the most among tight ends in 2025. I'm not sure if we always talked about Dallas Goedert in that way, in that same conversation with McBride, but Mina, how does this impact the Eagles' offense as they head into the draft and next season?
Yeah, I think it's helpful in a couple of ways. One, obviously, you have the familiarity. You talked about the red zone. How often have we seen Dallas Goedert be on the receiving end of the RPOs that they like to run? There's that institutional knowledge he brings back. I do like the fact this kind of flew under the radar that they finally brought in a blocking tight end, Johnny Munt from Minnesota, because to me, that's been really a missing component of this Eagles offense as Goedert has become less of a blocker. Now when they're running 12, maybe even 13 personnel, they have a blocking tight end, so he doesn't have to be in that role per se. But I also like it because of the flexibility it gives them in the draft. I'm a huge fan of the Oregon tight end, Kenyon Sadiq. Chase and I have talked about how much we both like him. I would love him in Philadelphia, but now there's no pressure necessarily to take him in the first round, especially if there's an edge, which is another glaring need they like there. So I like it when teams go into the draft not feeling like there's a glaring hole they desperately have to fill. They can let the draft fall to them. To me, having your tight end room makes it easier for them to do that, even if they take Sadiq, which I don't think should be off the table.
Yeah, it's making me think, okay, so Sadiq, A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, you got Dallas Goedert, and then that makes you think about A.J. Brown, Adam, naturally, right? What's going on there? Are they going to hold on to this guy after everything that happened in free agency? It seems like maybe they are for now.
Yeah, there have been trade discussions, and the Eagles have been steadfast all along that they wouldn't move A.J. Brown unless they got back a return package that they felt was fair and sufficient. That has not happened just yet, and it doesn't seem like it's going to be happening anytime soon. For the time being, A.J. Brown trade talks are on hold. That doesn't mean that he couldn't be traded before the draft or sometime around June 1st when the math surrounding his trade would dramatically shift and would be much more easy to make a trade post June 1. But right now, it seems like the trade talks have been tabled. They're on hold. They're not happening right now. And we'll see if they heat back up again. But getting Dallas Goedert back gives them another weapon. They still have a hole, as you mentioned, by losing Jahan Dotson. So now, if we're in a world where they don't have A.J. Brown, they don't have A.J. Brown, they don't have Jahan Dotson, they don't have two of their top three wide receivers next year, and you take a look at the notable moves that they've already made this offseason. You see the emphasis on the defensive side of the football with some of the players that they've lost. They wanted back Jalen Phillips. They lost him. They knew they'd lose Nakobe Dean. They knew they'd lose Reed Blankenship, and Jahan Dotson was a loss at wide receiver. So this is a team that, for all its capital and all the talent it has, it does have holes to address here the remainder of the offseason.
Chase, what do you think they should do? Move A.J. Brown if they can find the right trade partner?
I think so. I mean, I think it's without a doubt. The writing's on the wall. Look, A.J. Brown, even ever since he was reading a book on the sideline, I think just seems disinterested, especially with the quarterback play at times and the inconsistencies of Jalen Hurts. For me, A.J. Brown is one of the most underutilized receivers in the game. You can put him at X, you can put him in the slot, you can put him outside at the Z, and he is a matchup nightmare, the 50-50 balls, all that, everything's talked about. but when you line him up against a smaller DB, he will literally moss you, okay? And 6 of his 7 years in the NFL, 1,000 yards receiving. And guys, 32 touchdowns in his last 4 seasons in Philly, and yet he's still being underutilized because he still wants the football. Go to a team like the Patriots, just signed Romeo Doubs. Give Drake May a 1-2 punch. Obviously, the Rams were in it. Devontae Puka, that would be unfair. Seems to be unfair. Seems unlikely right now. But go to the Patriots, help Drake May out, and get a guy that will throw you the football in one-on-one coverage.
Yeah, Patriots fans everywhere salivating. I mean, Mike Vrabel might be salivating. It sounds like a great prospect if it can happen. We'll keep an eye on it. Coming up, we got a lot to get to today, and March Madness meets the NFL. You're going to have to stick around for this. We got teams going head-to-head in our free agency bracket. Look-see bracket, because why not? It's March 16th. Let's just have a little fun. We're going to use this to determine which teams had the best signings last week. This is our bracket. Chase, you are up first. With the 49ers versus the Patriots, which one did you like more in free agency?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you sign a future Hall of Famer in Mike Evans, to me, you got to give it to the 49ers. Sort of hard to lose when you do that. I absolutely love the Mike Evans signing. True 50-50 ball guy, but he's a veteran leader not only on the field, but off the field as well. A perfect weapon for Kyle Shanahan. I mean, give me Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall when he can stay healthy. Sign me up for that offense. They got to figure out the offensive line a little bit, but Brock Purdy for him is going to be a huge hit. I liked what the Pats did. Romeo Doubs, right? Kevin Byard, I think, is one of the most underrated signings in all of free agency as a ball hawk. But like I said, when you sign a future Hall of Famer, it's gotta be the 49ers.
All right, so I'm gambling a little bit here because I'm not sure our production staff trusts me to actually populate this. Oh, look at that. Okay, 49ers. They were like, you could do it while there's video on the screen. I'm like, no, let me do it on camera, people. Mina will continue here with 2 teams who spent a lot of money. Which moves did you like better, the Raiders or the Titans?
I'm going to go Raiders here because I just like these players a lot. And I like what they do for the young quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. Tyler Linderbaum, look, it's a lot of money, but I do think not only is the premium worth it because of the player, but also you have a rookie quarterback who's going to be playing under center, which he didn't do in college. You have a center coming in who's one of the best zone blocking centers in the entire NFL, but it can also set protections for him, so you're helping both the quarterback and the run game. I do think it was worth it. Naylor, an underrated addition. And then on the flip side, completely revamping your linebacker group with 2 former teammates, Dean and Walker, who I think have complementary skill sets. Again, big contracts being handed out, but they're being handed out to young players. So now you have a young core of the roster that can grow together around the quarterback. To me, they made the correct choices in identifying the players they needed.
By the way, this is a great reminder of what some of these teams did last week. If it's all kind of gobbledygook in your brain, we're telling you exactly what happened. Yeah. Next up, Chase, 2 AFC powerhouses in the Chiefs and the Bills. Which team in our bracket here did you think did better in free agency last week?
Yeah, I got to go with the Chiefs. I love the Kenneth Walker signing. Aloy Gilman played with him in L.A. for the Chargers, thought he was great. And then just the fact that they were able to re-sign Travis Kelce back. I know a lot was made of all the trades and stuff. And then Tonga is an absolute bulldog at nose tackle in the middle. But the prize signing, without a doubt, is Kenneth Walker. It's the first time really Brett Veach has spent a lot of money on a running back. I know Mina likes this signing as well, being a Seahawks fan. But it's just one of those things where he can help the offense out so much, not only in the run game, right, explosive threat, but when you get a Super Bowl MVP coming over, and we talked about Andy Reid drawing up plays on napkins, but he's a much better receiver out of the backfield than a lot of people give him credit for. So I do like the Chiefs here.
Yeah, you were talking earlier about Andy Reid drawing up plays on napkins. I'm excited to see what he does on a napkin for Kenneth Walker. All right, Mina, we're going to stay in the AFC with the Steelers versus the Chargers in free agency moves. Who came out on top for you last week between those two?
This one's a little closer because I do like the Chargers' moves and what it'll do for the run game in particular. But I think as a whole, I prefer the Steelers really to a lot of free agencies around the league, just because of the value and the fit of the players. Starting with Pittman Jr., who they traded for. I think he complements DK Metcalf really well as an intermediate weapon. Very good route runner, can work the middle of the field. Also complements Aaron Rodgers should he return at quarterback. I think Rico Dowdle is a complete and underrated back. 3-down back, can also catch passes. And then Jamel Dean was one of my favorite signings in free agency. phenomenal final year in Tampa Bay. A very good man corner, so you pair him opposite Joey Porter Jr., and that gives you the flexibility with your new defensive coordinator, Patrick Graham, to play more man coverage with, of course, that deep and terrifying pass rush. So I think they found a lot of really good players at good values, and I like how the total picture came together.
All right, let's bring in the king of free agency, Adam Schefter. How do we do here so far, Shefty? Give him your critique on our bracket.
Well done, Laura. Here's the one thing that's interesting about the Chargers that I think people have failed to realize. Most of the free agents that they signed were released here coming up to free agency. Therefore, the players who are released and not on expiring contracts don't count against the compensatory draft pick formula in 2027. And so the Chargers have kept alive their compensatory draft picks in 2027, which is said to be a very deep draft. So advantage San Diego in thinking ahead towards the 2027 draft. Most of the players they signed were released, and therefore they're exempt, and they don't count against that formula.
Of course, it's the former Ravens executive, right, Adam, who's playing the comp pick game and crushing it in L.A. It's all, that's what they have done for so long, so well. It's a great point by you, and not surprising to see that the Chargers are doing it well, too, now.
Especially after the way their season ended, it's exciting to think about them getting some more support, both offensively and defensively, for Justin Herbert. All right, we're going to continue, by the way. We're going to do our final four in free agency in our bracket. That's coming up later. Sign up for your brackets. He said, I was dog dead tired, but I'm going to the house. Chase, what do you remember about watching that play for the first time?
Well, I was getting ready to go into the NFL draft, so I was training, and I just remember watching this game from home and being like, there's no way in the world he's going to score a touchdown. I mean, how do you run 101 yards? And the fact that they had him dropping in coverage, I mean, it's one of the most memorable Super Bowl plays I have ever seen. I mean, to go 100 yards and to wear the number 92, that just says enough about it. I mean, it was something that changed it. It's easily one of the most epic Super Bowl plays I've ever seen in my entire life.
Again, we're going to continue this series highlighting 61 players, part of that prestigious group that have scored a touchdown in the biggest game in the world, the Super Bowl. All right, some more news over the weekend from the New York Giants as they signed another receiver for Jackson Dart. Former Falcons player Darnell Mooney comes on a one-year, $10 million deal that adds to what looks like a pretty good group of offensive weapons piling up there in New York, okay? Mooney, just the latest addition to their reworked Elmer Fudd, excuse me, special teams and offense. The team is also signing tight end Isaiah Likely to a 3-year deal. Likely comes from Baltimore, where he played under John Harbaugh. Sticking with Baltimore pipeline, Harbaugh also brought in former Ravens fullback Patrick Ricard, 2025 first-team All-Pro punter Jordan Stout. But, Chase, when you think about offensive coordinator Matt Nagy, you spent some time with him, you're very familiar with him out of Kansas City. How do you think schematically he's going to do some things around Jackson Dart and some of these weapons that we can look out for about what this will really look like on the field next season?
Well, it's going to be a completely revamped offense. I think a lot of people out there are probably thinking, oh, Andy Reid disciple, he had his chance in Chicago where he was coach of the year, talking about Matt Nagy. I think this offense is going to be specifically designed around Jackson Dart's strength. Yes, we know that he can run the football. Yes, we know that he's good with his legs, but he's extremely accurate in the short and intermediate part of the game. So I do look forward to seeing what that should be like. And I do think they're going to take some shots down the field. I mean, this is something that Andy Reid used to do, even Matt Nagy when I was with him. We like to throw the football down the field. Mooney gives them that speed threat. But the one signing I think that's not being talked about enough, in my opinion, is Isaiah Likely. Like, Isaiah Likely is going to be used in New York like Travis Kelce was in Kansas City. You design the entire offense around him. You move him everywhere. Wow. You design it around mismatches. And I think that's something that they are going to do. I mean, you get a healthy Malik Neighbors. You get Cam Scatterbo back. You get Mooney. You get Isaiah Likely. I mean, the weapons offensively for the Giants right now are really, really good.
The Kelce comp's really interesting, right? Because when you think about Kelce, like on the backside of those 3-by-1 formations, and you think about Isaiah Likely in that role, and Chase, I share your optimism about his upside as a pass-catching tight end. Imagine Malik Neighbors on the opposite side, and imagine the way that a defense is compromised. I mean, realistically, similar to Travis, Isaiah is going to get a lot of one-on-ones in those scenarios. I'm really interested in seeing how this plays out. You talked about some of the, I would say, differences we're going to see in the offense because Dart's skill set is different. But you also mentioned how he's been very accurate throwing short to intermediate. That, to me, is, I think, what I'm most interested in seeing from Nagy, and in terms of seeing like the carryover from Kansas City. We know that Jackson Dart is a good RPO quarterback. Obviously, that's a big part of the offense in Kansas City. We know that he can run, I would say, some of those West Coast concepts that you saw with the Chiefs. But I am interested in seeing, okay, now that you have a quarterback who's a designed runner, now you have some athleticism in the game, how can you build that into the offense? And to me, the only piece that's really missing is, I would say, the interior of the offensive line that needs work. But otherwise, I'm in agreement with Chase. I do think they have the pieces to make this thing function.
Laura, when you look at that list of all the Giants acquisitions, it feels like it was probably the most predictable offseason that any team could have had. John Harbaugh signed a bunch of former Ravens. He signed a new punter, a new kicker, a special team standouts. He did exactly what he needed to there. And then when they lose Wan'Dale Robinson to the Tennessee Titans, they go and get the cost-effective Calvin Austin and Darnell Mooney to help replace him. I mean, likely Ricard coming over from Baltimore. Jason Sanders at one point was a standout kicker before he missed last year due to injury. Jordan Stout became the highest paid punter in the NFL for John Harbaugh in Baltimore. So it's special teams, it's former Ravens, and it's cost-effective players. Not hard to figure out exactly what John Harbaugh was trying to do in New York.
Yeah, love a big deal for a punter there. Adam, they also have 7 picks in this upcoming draft. We talked about the number 5 overall pick. They've got 3 picks in the 6th round via some trades. So interesting how they're going to manage this draft. But we do have some breaking news, and this one pretty interesting, Adam. The 49ers adding more help to that offense.
They continue to add more weapons. Christian Kirk becomes the latest wide receiver to catch on, and they're going to need bodies there. Listen, they're going to be moving on from Brandon Ayuk at some point this offseason, but let's keep in mind that Brandon Ayuk has no more guaranteed money due, and the 49ers are in no rush to do anything there. They'll take their time. They'll wait until they find maybe there's an offer or an opportunity out there from somebody that's willing to give up something for a immensely talented but troubled wide receiver, and we'll see how that works out. But there are no rush to move off him right now, and in the interim, they just keep replenishing the roster and finding players that they believe can help out in the 2026 season.
Yeah, Mina, I really like this. I mean, Christian Kirk has had some ups and downs at times, but he's also been clutch in key moments. He's a veteran. You've got Mike Evans already. I mean, we'll see what happens with Ricky Pearsall. When you think about how this offense is shaping up for Brock Purdy, what comes to mind?
Yeah, it feels like Christian Kirk's been in the league forever, but he's not 30. So I would note that. Availability is a question mark. But if he is healthy, I do like the fit with the other receivers they added. Chase talked about Mike Evans, who's now the traditional X receiver in this offense. To me, Pearsall is a classic Z. And then you got Christian Kirk as the slot. You know, the Niners don't play a ton of 11 personnel. But to me, all 3 of those receivers do fit well together on the field. And this seems like a low-cost, low-risk signing for a San Francisco 49ers team that, as we're going to talk about, had a pretty dang good free agency.
Yeah, we're going to get into that a little bit more here soon. Chase, when you think about just knowing that Kirk is added to what Kyle Shanahan may want to do, you heard Mina lay out where you may see him on the field, but how do you think Shanahan can maximize this?
Yeah, I mean, Mina said it perfectly. That's your starter. You got your X with Mike Evans, your Z at Pearsall, and then if they're going to play 11 personnel, you're going to put him in the slot. He's not what he once was in terms of shiftiness, but he is a possession receiver on 3rd down. If you need a one-on-one matchup because Mike Evans is getting doubled or Ricky Pearsall is in the slot, and Kyle Shanahan moves his guys around so much. I mean, you know, he had 300 yards receiving last year. I could see something, if he's healthy, something similar to that. And you do need bodies there, right? Mike Evans, he's going to be getting double teamed, I'm sure, a lot. This frees him up on the inside in the slot alongside Kittle. I mean, you just look at that whole offense in our free agency frenzy with the draft. I don't know how the 49ers are going to be beat.
Yeah, right? It looks scary for sure, especially with a quarterback like Purdy and the way that he can be on time with these guys. All right, Mina mentioned it. We're going to talk a little bit more about the 49ers because they're still alive in our NFL free agency bracketology here. We're on theme here on NFL Live. 49ers versus Raiders for the championship. We'll see if they're able to advance. Chiefs and Steelers on the other side. When we come back, our analysts are going to tell you who had the better NFL free agency. We'll be right back. React starting in Carolina, where linebacker Jalen Phillips spoke today for the first time as a Panther.
Well, ultimately, Panthers just they came with a more attractive offer, and clearly that just shows the belief they have in me, and the belief they have in their team. They're willing to invest in pieces to try to take this team to the next level. So it came down to it, but ultimately it was kind of a no-brainer to come to the Panthers.
Mina, the Panthers made a lot of big moves. What are your thoughts on what they did in free agency?
Premium prices for premium players. I know folks were surprised by Phillips' $30 million a year given the sack production or lack thereof, but this is a complete edge and a perfect fit for their defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero's defense, which has a lot of similarities to Vic Fangio. Wants to defend the run with light boxes, wants to rush with 4. Phillips, to me, allows him to do both of those things. I really loved, by the way, the signing of Rasheed Walker, the tackle from Green Bay, because Ike Ekwonu got hurt in the playoffs. This was a need for them, and to bring in Walker on like a $10 million contract, I thought was a massive bargain. So premium prices elsewhere, but they got a really great deal there, and in whole, I think this team got a lot better.
Kyler Murray spoke last week after signing a one-year deal with the Vikings. Take a listen to what he had to say about working with Kevin O'Connell.
I know he's had a tremendous amount of success with multiple different quarterbacks. I know what my skill set brings to the game. I know what I'm capable of. And I think that, again, like I said, I'm ready to come in and compete. And I can't wait to be under his tutelage and, like I said, get to go to war with not only Jets, but him too.
Adam, what more can you tell us about Kyler Murray's situation in Minnesota?
Listen, he went to where he felt like he was putting himself in the best situation for the coming season. The Cardinals are paying him $36.8 million. The Vikings are paying him veteran minimum, about $1.3 million. He is a cost-effective option for the Minnesota Vikings, and if he shines the way that, say, Sam Darnold did in Minnesota, he's setting himself up to be a sought-after free agent a year from now when the Vikings are not allowed to put their transition or franchise tag on him. That's part of the contract and part of the agreement of going to Minnesota. Kyler Murray chose where he thought he could shine.
Hey, last week, Tua Tagovailoa signed with the Falcons as another option at quarterback with the question mark of Michael Penix Jr.'s status. And let's just talk about what they have on this Atlanta offense. I mean, there's a lot there, okay? So Tua is going to be, when he gets a chance to play, looking at these guys, right? Bijan Robinson, who I still think probably hasn't gotten his due in the NFL, despite the fact that he's led the NFL with 2,298 yards from scrimmage in 2025. Drake London, Kyle Pitts returns. When you think about what's going to be at Tua's disposal, Chase, what do you think his prospects are fit-wise in Atlanta?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the fit. It's going to be interesting to see him in Stefanski's offense under center because he's so much of a shotgun, quick game type quarterback. With McDaniel, I thought Tua played really well at times, and then there were times where you're scratching your head when he's had to get to his third and fourth progression, and he was knocked off the spot at quarterback. So he's very much a timing quarterback. He likes that offense. It's a very winnable division, and this is probably the best spot for him to go learn under Stefanski. If Michael Penix Jr. isn't ready, who knows? He might have a really good training camp when they're competing or whatever is happening. He might win that job, but like you said, Laura, those three weapons with Bijan, Kyle Pitts, and Drake London, that's really, really good for a quarterback coming off from Miami.
Yeah, I mean, there were some people who were down on this. When you think about Tua's skill set and what we're talking about here, who he's going to have at his disposal offensively, how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, first, I'm not going to be down on anything if it's $1.3 million. It's fine. But as far as his fit in Atlanta, Chase, you said something that I've been kind of puzzling over, thinking through, which is the lack of play from under center. You bring in Kevin Stefanski and you see the vision with Bijan Robinson under center, outside zone. And now they got two quarterbacks who haven't really played under center very much in the NFL. I am interested in seeing if Tua has more of a willingness to do so. But I also think you talked about his accuracy throwing underneath. You got some real potential here for some really effective yak-based offense, right? With, of course, Bijan Robinson as a pass catcher, but also even Drake London from the slot, slants, Kyle Pitts as well. And we know Tua can be an effective distributor. It does have limitations. There's a reason why he was available at that price. But I would be interested in seeing what Kevin Stefanski can do with him, particularly on the short to intermediate part of the field.
Yeah, great point about some of the similarities between those two quarterbacks. But coming up, Trey Hendrickson has found a new home in Baltimore after all that.